Welcome to the High Tech Freedom Podcast. This is a podcast where we bring successful tech sales professionals, thought leaders, and entrepreneurs to share best practices, insights, and lessons learned with other tech sales professionals. As a sales professional, the more we learn, the more we earn. Once we earn it, how can we put those hard-earned commission dollars back to work to build additional income streams that will create the freedom we are all working to achieve? I'm your host, Chris Freeman. I'm a high-tech sales leader, real estate investor, and lifetime learner. All right. Well, welcome, Nate, to the High Tech Freedom Podcast. How you doing today?
I'm great. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, likewise. And we're actually doing a podcast swap. I was on your podcast. I don't think it's out yet, but we met, I guess, just a week ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so now it's awesome opportunity to have you jump onto mine. So Nate, just in terms of the podcast, why don't you share what is your podcast about?
Sure. Yeah. My podcast is called Championship Leadership and been doing it for almost 5 years now. And that's just it's an opportunity for me to interview other leaders throughout the world, really, from all across the world, different industries, sports, military, you name it, authors, Olympians, to business owners, to entrepreneurs, to sales professionals. We were really all walks of life, and just to hear their stories about what they see leadership is, and people that have influenced them, and to learn from their experiences and maybe difficult times and how they found their way through those times. So that's kind of my podcast is all about, to just learn from others in all different areas of life.
5 years, man. That's a lot of guest interviews. I imagine you've had some pretty incredible people.
Yeah, we've had some amazing guests, and they're all great in their own way, right? So
yeah. Well, and that's the thing with leadership is, there's no like one perfect right way. This is how you have to do it. And so that's why it's such an interesting topic to hear how people have become successful and been impactful in their own way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's natural for us to want to seek out others that have maybe been on a similar path or maybe in a similar journey and to learn from them. And, as a coach, I mean, that's a lot of what I do is, right, help people to maybe navigate the place that they want to go and help them to get there a little faster than they would on their own, right? The greatest sports people in the world, they're doing the same thing. And we can do that from podcasts, right? I mean, there's probably too much information out there nowadays to the point where sometimes it kind of, you get paralyzed because there's so much, you don't know where to start or where to go. So you don't. But yeah, podcasts, I think that's the power in podcasting, is to help you, for free, to navigate some things and to learn from others' mistakes or to learn from others' successes to help you to get to that same place.
Yeah, it is a funny point. Sometimes my biggest challenge in the morning when I'm walking the dog is, all right, well, I go to what's new today in my podcast stream, and there's so many to choose from. I only have time for like 2.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Nate, why don't you just share just a little bit about your background, just to level set for the audience?
Yeah, you bet. I was just talking on a podcast right before this, so I'll start here. I haven't really ever started here, but my dad left me before I remember having a dad, right? Like, just the memories weren't there because it was such a young age, and I have a stepfather that's been a part of my life for most of it. Came into my life around right around 5 years old. And so I've always kind of discredited the importance or the impact that maybe that's had on me, right? Because he's never been a part of my life. So I was just like, I don't know. It's just kind of like normal that I haven't, I've never really attributed much to that. But as I look, right, because since then, I love to speak. I love to lead others. I've always gravitated towards leadership positions, whether that was in sports or playing college athletics or being an entrepreneur and a business owner. Have a teaching degree, right? Taught, coached high school and college athletics a couple of different times. But then, conversations have come up in recently where, I think I should probably thank my dad for leaving me, because I think it feels like, some people have made the comment that, oh, you're kind of like that that father for other people, other leaders, other business owners that, you never had. Right. And I've never really thought about it that way. So now I'm a coach today and I help other leaders, and maybe that's why, because I didn't have that necessarily in my life. So it was important to me to be able to be that for other men and women that I work with.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Well, let's talk a little bit about leadership. So you spent a lot of time thinking about it, talking about it, coaching around leadership. I mean, for you, what does leadership mean to you?
Yeah, I asked the question. You had the opportunity to answer it right yourself. What is championship leadership to me? Because I don't want to just be a leader. I want to be a championship leader. And what is that? And I think a big part of leadership is the ability to pull more out of others together collectively as a team than they would themselves as an individual if you weren't a part of their life. Like, I think that's the biggest piece to leadership for me. But then the other one that I like to talk a lot about too is, kind of Jocko Willink's, right? Where he's extreme ownership of, as a leader, it can be a lonely place, and you're carrying a lot of weight on your shoulders, and you do it voluntarily, knowing that that's just a part of being a leader. But yeah, when things are going well, I think the championship leaders are willing to pass on that success and those accolades to those that help them to get that success as a team or an organization. And when things aren't going super well, they take 100% responsibility or ownership. Again, going back to Jocko, of, hey, it stops and starts with me as the leader and taking full responsibility, no matter, what it is that happened that would have caused that failure or setback or loss, if we're talking sports, whatever it is. So yeah, those are kind of the main key characteristics that I really touch on, I think, when I'm trying to define what leadership is.
Yeah. Well, and a couple of things you said right there about extreme ownership, right? And 100% responsibility. You don't necessarily have to be leading people to have that mindset, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so, and I think about some of my listeners, right? You're a sales rep, you're just an individual contributor, and you might be thinking to yourself, well, I'm not leading anybody. Why does this leadership thing matter to me?
Yeah.
What would you say to that?
Well, typically when I'm in front of a group and I'm doing a talk, I'll ask people to raise their hand if they're a leader. And I think that everybody in the room should have their hand. And typically not everyone does. Maybe some people just don't want to raise their hand and play along, but some people I really don't believe see themselves as a leader. And we are all leaders, whether we like it or not. I mean, I truly believe that. And leadership isn't just a title or a position, right? We're all leaders, and we got to lead ourselves first before we can go out and lead others. And there's always people watching us. If you're a parent, like, you're a leader for sure. If you're a spouse, you're definitely a leader. Like, in your community, again, people are watching more what you do than what you say, and also looking to see if what you do aligns with what it is that you say. And all of that is leadership. And to be successful, if you're not in a leadership position, or it's just you out on an island, it's just as important for you to be a great leader every single day as it would be for the leader that's, running or responsible for hundreds or thousands of people, right? Because how you lead yourself through daily routines, habits, and rituals is going to reflect who you are and the success that you have in whatever role that you are in. And we always have the opportunity to be an example. And what example are you being? Because you're being one no matter what, right? You're either being a great example of what to do and how to help and how to serve, or potentially you're not being a great example. You're being a poor example of what not to do. And ask yourself the question, which one do you want to be?
Yeah. Well, on the topic of being an example, even if you're just an individual contributor, maybe you're a sales engineer, there's still people that you're influencing, that you're working with in any given project, any given sales campaign. Maybe you're a product manager, product engineer. You're influencing people.
Yeah.
And part of influencing people is leadership. And some of that is doing it by example, and maybe putting yourself out in front to kind of lead by example as a way to influence and impact.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely, absolutely agree with that. And again, there's whether it's just like the rest of the team kind of watching to see how you operate, because a lot of times what do? We're looking for ways for the level that we need to perform to. And and if the level is down here, then oftentimes a lot of people are going to match that. And so we all have the opportunity to help to raise that level. If you want to raise the level of your team, then you could raise the level of your performance and the example that you put out on a daily basis to everyone else. And a lot of times it just goes unspoken, but you'll notice it, right? You'll notice it, because not everyone's going to come up to you and tell you that, hey, you really inspire me in how you lead yourself on a daily basis. And because of that, like, it's inspired me to do the same. A lot of times people won't ever give you that verbal feedback. They'll just kind of fall in step, right? And so, yeah, it's nice to get the feedback, but you don't always get it. And as a leader, it's not something that we need to do our job at the highest level, right? The great leaders, the championship leaders, are going to do that no matter what.
Before we jump into the topic, I wanted to let you know that we just launched a monthly drawing for one of our insulated high-tech Freedom tumblers. Now, I've been sending these out as a thank you gift to each of our guests, and the response has been great. Everyone has a full-size coffee cup, a Yeti, or whatever brand that they might use, but not everybody has the small tumbler that you can put your wine or beverage of choice in. And they're great for the deck, beach, camping, or just keeping your drink warm or cold. Now, I'm not selling these, but I am excited about them. So we decided to offer these up to the loyal podcast listeners by doing a monthly drawing. So if you're interested, go to hightechfreedom.com/mug, that's MUG, and you'll see a picture of the tumbler and you can enter. We'll just collect your name, phone number, and email. And if you do win, we'll then follow up and ask for your mailing address so we know where to send it. If you don't win, your name stays in, so you don't need to re-enter. So Nate, was your first experience at leadership, was that being in the Army National Guard and leading a team?
No, I mean, no, not really. Again, I think it started, in high school, or on the playground as a little kid, like always kind of standing up for other kids, or, as a captain of my sports teams in high school, that I had the opportunity to become a leader. And I was a big sports kid, right? So obviously I was looking and watching, and I don't know that I was necessarily aware of it at the time, but the great coaches of my era as a kid growing up, I would always pay attention to them. I would read some of their stories or their books, and was always, as I look back, interested in great leaders and how they led and how they won and how they got teams that, people from all backgrounds and experiences and places throughout the world or the country to come together and to be successful. But in the military, being deployed as a first lieutenant, a commissioned officer in the Army, that was some pretty good on the job training to really hone in and find out who I was and what my style was as a leader. Being deployed for 15 months, being responsible for 42 men, thousands of miles away from home. It was an incredible opportunity to grow as a leader. So I would say that time frame was really significant in developing who I am as a leader, and a lot of the thoughts that I have on what leadership is and what it looks like.
Yeah. I can't imagine and thank you for your service. It's a long time to be away from friends and family.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Especially when you're there, at least for me, I mean, you think about it a lot. You thought a lot about, when you're going to get back home and what you would do and things like that. At the same time, you're focused on your job and your mission and what you got to do when you're there as well to do that and to do it well and to do it safely.
Yeah, I bet. Wait, so if somebody says, okay, hey, Nate, I want to get better at leadership. I want to get better at self-leadership. What's something that somebody could start doing right now, today, maybe each day, just to improve how they do it?
Yeah, there's a lot of different things you can do, from study, right? Reading books and or courses or whatever. But again, when we talk about leading yourself at a high level, I think that does come down to who you are and the routines and rituals and habits that you have on a daily basis. And so I think that's a great place to start. And I created, I've ran like 100-mile races. And when I signed up for my first one, I didn't really have any experience in that area. Like I didn't run a bunch of marathons prior to it, or I wasn't a huge runner my entire life, but there was something about it that, wondered if I could do it. And through that process of training and doing the preparation, I created kind of what I call the integrity bank. And the integrity bank is really just becoming a person of your word. And I think that's the foundation of leadership is, can you be counted on? Are you going to be the type of leader when things are going great as you are when things are kind of feel like they're falling apart? And so I think, again, the foundation of where that can start is just by being your word and not just to others, but to ourselves. And so we do that by making deposits into our integrity bank every single day. I'm going to get up at a certain time. I'm going to work out every single day. I'm going to be home at a certain time. I'm going to, I am going to study this book or listen to this podcast every single day as a part of just kind of my daily living, to make myself a better person, to continue to grow and to get better, to continue to be the example that I want and see in others. And so we do that by, making those deposits every single day. Because when you're not your word, you're just making withdrawals. And, if you have a financial bank account, you make too many withdrawals with no money in the bank, you're getting an overdraft fee. And so a lot of people are overdrawn in their life because they're saying that they're going to be somewhere at a certain time. They're telling people that they're going to do something and they don't follow through. And again, it all starts with us. If I can't expect to be my word to someone else, if I'm not my word first and foremost to myself, if I continue to break promises to myself. So start small, whatever it is, and make that promise to yourself that today's the day that you're going to do it. No matter what you've done in your past, start to make those deposits, and slowly over time, your balance will grow and you become more and more of a person of your word, to the point where, you tell somebody you're going to do it and they just know it's going to be done because of who you've been over a long period of time. Versus, I think we've all known people where they've told us that they're going to do something and you're kind of shaking your head up and down like, yeah, oh, that's really cool. But in your mind, you're like, there's no way they're going to do this because of who they've shown up to be. So, I think that's a big one. When you're talking about personal leadership, is that integrity bank. And again, don't beat yourself up. Like, no matter what you've done or who you've shown up as before, you can draw the line anytime and just make the decision that today I'm going to start. Just know that just because you've started making deposits into your integrity bank, like for a couple of days, don't expect the whole world to now just think that that's who you are, right? Depending on the amount of debt that you have, it might take a while for you to build up the equity in others for them to be like, all right, this change is real, or this new version of Nate that I'm seeing is actually here to stay. So be committed.
Got to get back to zero.
Yeah,
in some cases. Well, I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's, especially for somebody, like you said, it's never too late to start. But if you're an early career professional, an early career person in any role, doing these little things, you won't see a drastic change right away.
Right.
But it's just this incremental stuff that builds on top of it that starts to build up your reputation, your brand, how people perceive you. And you won't even know the impact that you're having. But, someday down the road, you're looking for a job, and maybe it's somebody you haven't talked to in 10 years. Once you reestablish that connection with that person, they remember.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
That stuff's in the
100%.
bank. And it's kind of like, it's sort of like the inverse, right? Maybe you have unhealthy eating habits. Well, you can go snack on a Cheez-It here or Cheez-It there, and no big deal. But incrementally, that stuff starts to build up, and that's when bad things happen.
Yep.
So it's a long game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you never know who's watching, and you never know when that next opportunity is going to rise. And like you just said, the opportunity could come years later, and that person that you're getting the opportunity from was there years later and has since moved on. And now, because of how small the world really truly actually is, your paths cross again, and they remembered who you were and how you showed up in the very beginning. And because of that, you built up that balance with them to the point where now there's this new opportunity that you're excited about, that you have, because you were doing things the right way when you didn't even think that anyone was watching or that it even mattered. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. I led a team of specialists or overlay type sales reps in a company for for over 5 years, and I used to really promote the idea of your say to do ratio, because we weren't the direct owners of the accounts. We were working with a general account manager, and we were, for better or for worse, we were held on a higher pedestal. If we did good, it was what was expected. And if we didn't do good, then everybody would blame the specialist or get upset or say they weren't doing their job or whatever. And so I always promoted the idea of, if you say you're going to do something, do it. Your say to do ratio needs to be
I love that.
much higher than the general seller. You just have to be better than they are.
Yeah. Yeah. The say to do. I love that. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the integrity bank, right? I mean, it's doing what you said you're going to do. And it can be a significant differentiator between, like you said, yourself and the competition or others. And it's not really difficult. It's not easy, but it's simple, right? We can all become people of our word and follow through on what we say. And unfortunately, that is a differentiator. Unfortunately, that's not necessarily the norm everywhere you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. Well, Nate, as we wrap it up, I often ask my guests, what does freedom mean to you? We're all working towards something. We're trying to achieve something. What are you working towards?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love, the opportunity to just build a life that I really want to live, which I have 3 kids and I'm married, and the flexibility to be able to, I guess, first of all, give maybe my children a life that I didn't have necessarily myself growing up. Not that I had a bad life, but a little bit more opportunity experience. I think it's natural for all parents to probably want to give their kids a little bit more than what they had. And so, money is definitely a factor to help you to be able to do that. But it's not like I have this dollar amount in mind that I want to go create more than just living a life that I've been able to design to do the things that I want to do when I want to do them. Essentially, is freedom to me.
Yeah, yeah, being intentional about it. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Nate, we will have your contact information in the show notes. Is there anything else that you'd like to highlight or shout out?
A great place to go for what I do and content that I put out there, programs that I have, services, things like that. I mean, everything's there. Social media is my website, natebailey.org.
Bailey.org. Well, Nate, again, thank you for your time today. Really good to catch up.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks again for joining us today. To get more sales and real estate tips, you can subscribe to our newsletter at hightechfreedom.com. You can also join our private Facebook and LinkedIn group that is exclusively for sales professionals. If you found a nugget of good information in the podcast, please subscribe, give us a positive rating, and write a review. If there is a topic that you would like us to cover in the future, please send us a note through our website at hightechfreedom.com. Until next week, make this your best week ever.